I'm blown away right now. Like, I feel like it's 2008 and the PSP just launched and we're all losing our fucking minds because we're playing PlayStation games on a handheld for the first time. It's a special kind of feeling. If you know, you know. But, hey, this is the ROG Ally, a gaming handheld from our friends at ASUS. It launched today, well, yesterday. And honestly, well, I'll just show you. This thing is nuts. All right, it's finally ROG Ally Day. I'm super excited for this thing. I haven't been this excited for a tech thing in quite some time. Honestly, the last thing I was super excited about was probably the Steam Deck. And well, this is kind of like a Steam Deck, but maybe a little more powerful. Dude, I absolutely love opening new tech. There's something about it that just really is satisfying. So pretty small box here, nothing crazy, but there it is. Actually, there's some stuff in the top there too. Not sure. Oh, it's a little kickstand. Check that out. It's just an ROG like styrofoam kickstand. It's literally made of like paper. I don't know if you can see that. Oh yeah, it's nice. It's nice that they give you something. Put that right there. And here it is. This is the ROG Ally in white. You know what's funny? I think this brings me back to my first major handheld that I was excited for, which was the original PSP way back in the day. There was a game called Untold Legends, if you guys remember that game, that came out, and my friends at the time were all getting PSPs, and I was like the only one that didn't have one. And then I remember going to the store, and my parents were nice enough one day, and that was like the most exciting thing as a kid, right? Was being able to go to the store, look at behind the cabinet, see the console that you wanted, and your parents were like, okay, fine. And you call the guy over or whatever to get it out of the case. I don't know, there's always been something about handhelds to me that immediately just make me super excited. So no different here, except my mom, I didn't have to ask my mom for permission for this one, so that was kind of convenient. Anyway, so in the box, we'll get to the actual thing itself in a moment, but got a little charging brick here, which I think it's a 65 watt. Oh, I'm stupid. It literally says 65. I don't know if you can see that on the camera at all, but it literally says 65 right there. So it's a 65 watt power brick that comes with it. It's completely solid. So there's no USB-C, like you can't use this brick with a different cable. You have to use it with this cable, but should be fine. Got a little small accessories box here. And by accessories, I mean paperwork, so no one really cares. There's a serial number and a quick start guide, which is, who reads quick start guides anymore? Not me, I'm an expert. I think that's it. Cool, well there's the box. Nothing crazy, but what is crazy is the actual handheld itself. So this is the ROG Ally, a small portable gaming PC in an age where handhelds are sort of taking over a little bit. First impressions right off the bat, the back buttons. There's these back shoulder buttons, and they definitely feel a little more comfortable than say on the Steam Deck. You can kind of see they're at like an angle, which is a little more comfortable to me. Let's see if I can put it over here too. So immediately I love that. And then of course that strip, you see that little reflective strip right there? It almost looks like RGB. If you weren't paying attention, you'd be like, oh, there's RGB on the back. It's not actual RGB, it's just a little metallic strip, but boy, is it pretty. And there's a number on it. It says 206. I don't know if you can see that, but it says 206. If you know what 206 is, let me know in the comments, because I don't know what it means. Got a 7-inch display on here. It's 1080p, 120 hertz, which for a gaming handheld is quite impressive. You've got some really nice triggers. They feel very close to Xbox triggers. So if you like Xbox triggers, they have that nice soft dampened kind of bump at the very end. Shoulder buttons are pretty nice. I feel like the shoulder buttons are a little high up for what I would probably prefer, but generally speaking, pretty comfortable. Joysticks, super comfortable. They've got that really nice grip texture around the edge, like you would find on an Xbox controller. And I believe they made a lot of references to the Xbox controller in their little keynote presentation where they talk about sort of the inspirations, and yeah, I can totally see where the sticks come from. The ABXY buttons as well. I'm not sure, this color scheme is kind of strange. They're just kind of like darkened colors. The A button is kind of like a blue. The B is kind of like a plum orange or a purple color. The Y is kind of, well, I guess that's more of a plum color. And I don't know, it's kind of a mixture of like purple and blue. They're very weird colors. I was gonna say they're soft, but it's not really soft, isn't really the word. I don't know. You've got some nice clicky buttons here on the front, and I'll go over what those do later. You got your front firing speakers, which is super nice and obviously important. You've got another reflective bit down there on the palm rest on this side with the ROG logo. Very cool. I think this was a smart way to kind of make it look RGB without actually wasting any battery or space with LEDs, because during the day or whatever, it'll stand out. Plus, because of the white, I don't know, the white is super clean. It makes it look super pretty. You got like a nice ROG sort of palm rest area right there, which right off the bat, holding it up here, I was watching Linus Tech Tips do an unboxing of this really early on, and his first thought was, yeah, this feels weird in the hands. And I'm immediately wanting to say sort of the same thing. It feels sort of weird in the hands, unlike a normal handheld. Like the Steam Deck definitely feels your palms a lot better than this currently does, but this still feels your hands better than say the Nintendo Switch does. But the palm grips do have a little bit of texture to them. And what I figured out, or I should say what Linus figured out, is that it's designed to be like this. It's designed for you to hold it at this angle where your hands are resting on a surface, kind of like this. And when you do this, it really makes sense and it feels a lot more comfortable. And I'm wondering if that's mainly because when you're up here, your hands go down, so like your palms tilt this way, and the hand rest is not really conducive to that particular grip. Whereas if you sit like this, your thumbs and your hands rotate back up, and now they're resting on top of the palm rest, and that to me is way more comfortable. All right, so we kind of covered a majority of the outer part. There is a D-pad, I forgot to mention. It's a pretty nice D-pad. Nothing crazy, nothing to write home about, so to speak. It's a good D-pad. I'm not sure how I feel about the reflective piano black. That kind of material always tends to scratch really easy, but we'll see how it goes. All right, let's power it on. Oh, I should, I guess, mention, you know what, I lied, we're not done. On the top, you've got your power button right there. You've got what looks to be an exhaust on the right and an exhaust on the left. This does have 2 fans in it. We'll cover that more in depth in the review, so stay tuned for that. But you've got 2 exhausts, kind of like almost like a gaming laptop, right? This looks very similar to the rear of a gaming laptop. You've got some what looks to be a power and or hard drive LED to an extent of sorts up there. You've got a volume rocker. Nice clicky buttons, love that. You've also got your USB-C and your expansion port, which is like the ASUS proprietary little expansion port. There is, this does have eGPU support, which basically what that means is that if you wanted to dock this at your desk and power it with a much bigger GPU, a dedicated GPU, you could buy sort of an enclosure that has a 4090 or whatever the newest AMD card is, I forget off the top of my head, but ASUS does sell that enclosure, and it uses a special cable that's USB-C and whatever, probably PCI Express type connector that is. And you also have a micro SD slot, so you can add some storage. This comes with 512 gigs of storage, but you can up it to whatever you like. And then of course a headphone jack, because thankfully on handhelds, we still have space for that. So now, without further ado, let's power it on. There it goes. So yeah, immediately, if you're gonna get one of these, don't try to power it on without plugging in the charger first. Wow, look at those RGB thumbsticks. Gotta have a little bit of RGB on here. That's such an ASUS thing to do. Well, I wouldn't say it's an ASUS thing, but ROG anything has always had little touches of RGB here and there, even way back when they weren't as well known as they are now. So it's nice to see the thumbsticks have a little bit of flavor on them. Like I said, I love that the back has sort of that strip. I think that kind of adds a lot of character, and it looks great on the white. So I expect this to be a bit of a longer boot screen just because it's the first time we're powering it on. There it goes. Secondary boot screen here. It does run Windows 11 straight out of the box, which, if you're familiar with the Steam Deck, is going to be a little bit different than what you're used to. Well, at least in the case of a handheld. So unless you've been using an Aya Neo, which is kind of the other relatively popular Windows handheld, this is the first time we've seen any of the major contenders jump into handhelds. So it'll be really exciting to see if other manufacturers jump in as well. And it doesn't surprise you that ASUS was the first, but I say give it a few years, and I think almost every major player is going to have some sort of Windows gaming handheld device. All right, so generally speaking, my first impressions of the Ally is that it's less comfortable than the Steam Deck, but performance-wise, it's not even a competition. However, I will say I'm an absolute sucker for RGB thumbsticks. I don't know what it is about them, but it just adds a little flair and customization that I really like. Very ROG. Now, more importantly, what I'm most impressed with is what the AMD Z1 Extreme chip can actually do. Sure, ASUS designed an amazing product around it, and we'll get more into that in the full review, but at the heart of what makes the Ally do what it does, the Z1 Extreme chip really blew me away and gives me so much hope that integrated graphics are going to become the new wave of performance handhelds. In case you were wondering, the Ally only comes in two versions, at least at the time of recording. One with the Z1 Extreme chip and one with the standard Z1. Now, if you're on the fence and think you can save a little money by skipping the Extreme because, oh, it's just Extreme, it's only like 5%, it's only like... Listen, let me just tell you that you're not gonna wanna skimp out here. The difference is pretty massive in terms of raw compute power. I won't get into the nitty-gritty details, but the Z1 can only output 2.8 teraflops, while the Extreme can do 8.6. That's approaching both the Xbox Series X, which I think is like 12, and the PS5, which is like 10. Not only that, but the Z1 only has 4 RDNA 3 cores, or graphics cores, where the Extreme has 12 RDNA 3 cores. So trust me when I say it's worth the extra couple $100, especially if you plan to play cinematic single-player titles. Now, if you want to play Rocket League or maybe Fortnite or maybe some other esports kinds of titles, maybe you can, you'll be fine. But if you want a game, like game, you're gonna want the Z1 Extreme. But other than that, there's virtually no difference between the two models. Okay, so I know that was the most chaotic unboxing video ever, so please forgive me, because if I don't script literally everything for myself, I get way off topic. Anywho, I am currently flooding my Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok with shorts surrounding the Ally, so while I work on the full review of the Ally, I highly recommend you check those out. And hey, if you enjoyed this video, maybe consider hitting the like button and subscribing. It's free. Or don't, that's cool too. You can do whatever you want. I've got a ton of cool stuff in the docket for the second half of this year, and I would love to have you along for the ride. But until then, I'll see you in the next one. Peace. I wanna go play some more games. Look at it. Uh-oh, I'm opening settings. Sorry. Come on, like, are you kidding me?